May 7, 1915, the Lusitania was sunk by a German U-boat. 1,200 innocent people lost their lives. For over 80 years, the truth about what happened off the Irish coast has remained a mystery. Now, for the first time, the complete story can be told. Summer 1961. An American diver, John Light, sets out to solve a half-century-old mystery. Miles off the Irish coast, 300 feet down, the Lusitania. A magnificent vessel that sank in only 18 short, shocking minutes after being struck by a single primitive torpedo. John Light seeks to find out why. And he believes he finds the answer. The Lusitania was known to be carrying American ammunition for the British war effort. Light sees evidence of a massive internal explosion. He believes the ammunition exploded, a catastrophe denied by the British government. In 1982, another team of divers, armed with a hard-shell suit and a remote-controlled camera, follow Light's trail. They slice into the hold to examine the ship's cargo. What they find seems to confirm John Light's theory.
Artillery fuses, and we now know that when they were coming up from the bottom, they were in fact live.
1993. American oceanographer Dr. Robert Ballard, discoverer of the Titanic, is determined to prove once and for all what sank the Lusitania. Dr. Ballard expects to confirm John Light's theory that the ship's cargo of munitions exploded. Ballard is stunned by what he finds. The cargo hold where the munitions were carried is undamaged. The mystery of the Lusitania endures. Lying on her damaged side, broken and half buried, further examination of the ship can offer no more clues. Today, computer technology can help solve the mystery. Using her original plans and engineering specifications, the computer can reconstruct the Lusitania's final moments.
Kinsale is a software program to analyze damage, stability, and strength characteristics of vessels. Kinsale can analyze various situations for us for flooding analysis, damage analysis, and stability analysis. We begin by modeling the vessel using lines, plans, and existing documentation to create a computer model of the vessel. Once we have the model of the vessel, we can run through a series of what-if scenarios. What we hope to determine is how much damage would cause the Lusitania to take the initial 15 degrees of list, and how much water would it take on, and what spaces would have to be flooded and damaged in order to cause it to sink within 18 minutes.
The computer simulation will answer the question, what sank the Lusitania? May 1st, 1915. The great British liner Lusitania prepares to leave New York on her 202nd crossing of the Atlantic. Her master, William Turner, has worked his way up from crewman to captain in a 40-year career at sea.
Morning, sir. Morning, sir. Everything all right?
It is the Lusitania's 8th year on the New York to Liverpool run. 785 feet long, 32,000 tons. Few other liners can match her top speed of 24 knots. But this voyage has an ominous beginning.
Notice, travelers are reminded that a state of war exists between Germany and Great Britain, and that travelers sailing in the war zone do so at their own risk. Imperial German Embassy, Washington, D.C.
The risk is real. Europe has been at war for 9 months. The Atlantic is a battleground. With her mighty navy, Britain seeks to starve Germany into surrender by blockading food and supplies. The German response? All-out submarine warfare against British shipping. Submarine warfare is declared in February 1915. In 3 months, 68 vessels have been sunk in the waters Captain Turner must cross. The war zone. The United States is not at war. In the early days of World War I, the Germans avoid attacking vessels carrying innocent American passengers. The Lusitania's cargo is not so innocent. The Germans know that she is being loaded with ammunition for the British war effort. Although President Woodrow Wilson is determined to keep the United States out of Europe's war, passenger vessels are allowed to transport supplies to Britain. Germany warns that this use of human shields will lead to tragedy. In New York, a newsreel crew covers the Lusitania's departure. Most passengers dismiss the German threat as wartime propaganda. The Lusitania's passenger list is the longest since the European War began. 690 men, 441 women, and 134 children board the giant steel ship.
We were to go on the Maritime in the first place, but we had a maiden aunt live with us, and she paid the difference from the Mauritania to the Lusitania. That was our wedding present.
I'd only been 3 years in this country, and I was one of these impossible old country emigrants, and I was longing to go home again. And I had this baby, and he wasn't well at all. The doctor said to me, "You'll have to take him away." So of course I was charmed with the idea of going home.
We'd heard so many rumors of what the Germans were threatening to do, and I paid very little attention to it. In any case, I rather felt, oh, well, the hell with it, I'm going anyhow.
As the Lusitania prepares for her voyage, the journey of another ship has just begun. The German submarine U-20. Her commander, Captain Walter Schwieger. Schwieger is a top U-boat commander. He ranks 7th out of 30 captains in sinking British ships. Otto Rikowski is the U-20's radio telegraph operator.
Am 30. April 1915 wurde in der U-20 aus Wilhelmshaven aus.
On April 30th, 1915, the U-20 left for a long-distance mission. I was a corporal and a senior telegrapher on the U-20.
On May 1st, Schwieger orders Otto Rikowski to inform home base of their progress. From secret, recently declassified documents, the truth can now be disclosed. The British tapped German communications. London knew the U-20 was on its way toward Liverpool. The secret story of the Lusitania unfolds in a tiny, tucked-away corner of the Admiralty building in London. Room 40. The men of Room 40 are a top-secret intelligence-gathering unit, the nucleus of British code breaking. Only a handful of British officials are aware of Room 40's existence. One is a politician with a radical vision of warfare. Winston Churchill, First Lord of the British Admiralty. In February 1915, Churchill writes a chilling memo.
It is most important to attract neutral shipping to our shores in the hope of embroiling the U.S. with Germany. We want the traffic, the more the better. And if some of it gets into trouble, better still.
Room 40 knows the U-20 is on its way toward Liverpool. Top British officials are advised. But should the Lusitania be warned? May 1st, New York Harbor. Lusitania radio operator Robert Leith receives telegrams warning prominent passengers not to sail.
Have it on definite authority, the Lusitania is to be torpedoed. Cancel passage immediately.
To this day, no one knows who sent those warnings. The first telegram is addressed to millionaire Alfred Vanderbilt, the Lusitania's wealthiest passenger. The second, to Broadway producer Charles Frohman. They dismiss the threat as a joke. Noon. The Lusitania is ready to depart. The newsreel camera captures the historic moment. The last images of the world's finest ocean liner. Captain Turner is on the bridge as the Lusitania leaves New York for the last time, en route to catastrophe.
Confidential. In no circumstances is this paper to be allowed to fall into the hands of the enemy. Instructions for masters of British merchant ships. If a submarine comes up close ahead of you with obvious hostile intention, steer straight for her at your utmost speed.
Captain Turner's instructions come from the British Admiralty under Winston Churchill. The ramming orders turn the prow of the giant ship into a razor that can slice a U-boat in half. Churchill has also ordered the secret arming of some merchant ships.
I attach the greatest importance to the use of merchant ships with a concealed gun to entrap submarines. They should cruise in the area of the raiding submarine, stop when they are challenged, and then sink the submarine by gunfire, taking the boat's crew prisoners or firing on them as convenient. Winston S. Churchill.
Churchill calls his deadly fleet Q ships, wolves in sheep's clothing. Marauding U-boats dare not surface and give fair warning for fear of being rammed or fired upon. The rules of naval warfare have changed forever. German commanders suspect that even passenger liners may be armed. And they are right. In May 1913, the Lusitania had been equipped to carry powerful guns. 12 gun mounts are hidden on her decks under coils of rope. These measures have made the Lusitania a legitimate target. But the passengers have no idea that they are pawns in a new and horrible kind of war. To them, it seems like a routine crossing on the most elegant liner in the world. A floating palace that offers regal accommodations, priceless furnishings, even an elevator. The 42 men aboard the U-20 enjoy no such comforts. Days pass into nights, unnoticed, in the cramped, stifling quarters. Diesel engines spew fumes into the cabin as the vessel churns toward Liverpool. Caged mice are kept to ward off noxious air. The only diversions are a mascot dog rescued from a previous sinking and Captain Schwieger's gramophone. Below decks on the Lusitania, 3 huge turbines are producing 68,000 horsepower, consuming thousands of tons of coal. The coal dust that gathers in storage bunkers in the center of the ship is highly explosive. Many investigators have speculated that it was this dust, ignited by the torpedo, that doomed the Lusitania. But naval architect Blake Powell disagrees. His computer simulation of the disaster suggests that a coal dust explosion was unlikely.
The Lusitania was designed with 4 main boiler rooms, all located in the center of the ship. For an explosion to occur, it has to be under very, very specific conditions. There would have been condensation in the starboard bunker due to the cold water on one side and the hot boilers on the other side. And this also would eliminate much of the dust in the air, and most of it would have settled in pools on the bottom. It's unlikely that coal dust would have exploded under these circumstances.
The simulation will provide an alternative to a coal dust explosion, a conclusion that cannot be reached by exploration on the wreck. Queenstown, Ireland, gateway to the Atlantic. Since the war began, its waters have been infested with German U-boats. Queenstown's American consul is Wesley Frost. His job, monitor the U-boat threat. So far, the Germans have avoided spilling neutral American blood. Frost will be watching for the next ship carrying Americans along his coastline. The Lusitania is still 48 hours away. The U-20 has reached Ireland's old head of Kinsale and claims its first victim. Captain Schwieger attacks a small schooner, the Earl of Leighton. Unafraid of this harmless vessel, he surfaces and permits the crew to abandon ship before sinking her. No one is killed. Now Schwieger moves on toward Liverpool to attack the hub of British shipping.
11 p.m. Queenston to Admiralty, London. Schooner sunk by submarine off Kinsale at 5:30. 1 patrols.
The message reaches London that night. Time enough to warn the Lusitania or send out a naval escort. But that night and through the next day, silence. The Lusitania's passengers and crew sail on, oblivious to the danger ahead. May 6. Schwieger sinks 2 more British merchant ships. The Candidate and the Centurion. Neither ship is brought down by a single torpedo. The Candidate remains afloat for 4 hours. Again, the crew escapes. Now Schwieger makes a decision that will earn him a place in history. His log entry.
The voyage to the St. George's Channel has consumed so much of our fuel oil that it would be impossible for us to return to Germany if we had now continued to Liverpool. It is therefore decided to remain south of the entrance into the Bristol Channel.
Schwieger will backtrack to the old head of Kinsale. The U-20 and the Lusitania are on a collision course. The Admiralty now knows that 3 British ships have been sunk by a German U-boat along the Lusitania's path. After a day and a half of silence, it has finally decided to warn the endangered liner. Thursday, May 6th, 7:52 p.m.
Submarines active off south coast of Ireland.
Minutes later, a coded message is broadcast to all British ships.
Submarines off fast net.
No news of a naval escort. No instructions to take evasive action. No orders to change course. The Admiralty's 2 cryptic messages remain controversial to this day. Turner takes precautions. He orders the lookouts doubled, the ship's lifeboats prepared. For the first time, the passengers are anxious.
Thursday, I noticed there was a difference among the people. And I didn't feel very comfortable Thursday night, but I didn't know anything about a warning.
Morning, May 7th, 1915.
We ran into a very thick fog, and when we'd asked members of the crew why we were going so slowly, they said if any of the lookouts saw a submarine, the speed of the Lusitania would take them out of any danger whatsoever.
By late morning, the fog lifts. The coast of Ireland can be seen ahead.
I took my baby up after breakfast because we could see the coast of Ireland. I said, that's the place where your mummy was born.
As the fog now disappeared, we surfaced and continued above water. From a distant, far layer of haze, a large ship came towards us, holding course on us.
Hey, ich sehe ein Schiff. Identifizieren Sie das? Ein großer Frachter, Herr Kapitän. Ein Zwei-Master. 4 Schornsteine.
She had 2 masts and 4 smokestacks. We were given the alarm to submerge. The commands fairly burst from the commander. The ship was traveling diagonally to us, making about 20 knots. Underwater we cannot move this quickly, about 8 or 9 knots at utmost power. We made all speeds to get into the position. At 750 meters, we shot our torpedo.
Spieger's log describes the attack.
Clean bow shot. G-torpedo, 3 meters depth adjustment. Angle 90 degrees. Estimated speed 22 knots. Of the torpedo, followed by a second explosion.
So I shouted to Captain Turner, she won't answer the helm, sir. All right, keep trying. Keep your eye on that spirit level on the compass. Sing out if she goes any further.
Come at once. Strong list. Position 10 miles south of Kinsale.
Looked through and he said, that is the Lusitania being sunk now. And who wants to look through can have a look at it. It was a horrible spectacle, one must say. Women, children and men were all running around in confusion on the deck, seeking some way of rescuing themselves. We could not surface, for we could not save anyone. We were fully loaded with 42 men. We would have been too heavy. We were truly sorry.
There's one thing I'm going to tell you. You don't think about God. You think if you're going to die, your mind would go to God, but it's not what you think. The thing was to get out, get out, get out.
Got the baby in my arms and I went upstairs. There was so much shrieking and panic.
I saw the lift had stuck between the floors, and there were people inside. Those poor wretched people must have been drowned like rats in a trap.
I was scared, really scared. I couldn't think of anything or what to do, you know. And Harold, he had presence of mind to put the lifebelt on me.
The captain says the ship can't sink, and we're quite safe.
And I looked up, and the
Lusitania was just about ready to roll on top of us.
That's the only time I prayed. And I said, oh God, if I've got to die, let me die in the water.
I waved to my husband as he went down with the boat. As long as I could see him, we waved.
I'd swum, I suppose, about 50, 60 yards away, and then I saw her start to take her final plunge. People were jumping overboard, people were being thrown overboard, boats were being smashed to pieces. There was utter chaos until finally the waters covered her completely.
And the next thing I know, we were in the water. My baby gave a terrible scream and we both sank. And I came up and the baby was gone.
In some way or other, I got my arms over an oar and one arm through a life preserver with a dead woman in it.
After 18 minutes of horror and panic, the great liner disappears. No one, not even the German commander who sank her, could ever imagine that a single torpedo could cause such destruction. The mystery of the second explosion will go unanswered for 80 years. But the second explosion was not caused by the ship's cargo of ammunition. According to computer analysis, the second explosion occurred in boiler room number 1, where icy seawater turned a fiery furnace into a pressurized bomb.
The size of the hole was approximately 20 feet wide by 10 feet high, and it was relatively high in the bunker. The amount of water that rushed in was in the neighborhood of 100 tons per second, which instantaneously flooded the bunker and caused a 15-degree list. And the water that went from the coal bunker into the boiler room would rapidly come in contact with the starboardmost boiler. This hot boiler coming in contact with roughly 40-degree Fahrenheit water would have caused a steam explosion of that boiler. The explosion caused by the boiler would have been significant. It would have been felt throughout the ship. It would have caused damage to the bulkheads around the number 1 boiler room, which would, again, aggravate the flooding condition of the ship.
It takes 3 hours for the first rescue boats from Queenstown to reach the survivors. Far too late for hundreds who die of exhaustion and exposure.
On this trawler, this lady had lost her baby, and she saw me with mine. And she hit me. You know, of course, I didn't blame her at all. The poor soul was just crazy. She lost her child.
Evidently, I had been picked up as a dead body. I evidently must have made some movement with this blanket. And they said, oh, quick, there's life here.
.195 are dead. 123 are Americans. The sinking is so sudden that only 6 of 22 lifeboats reach Queenstown. 800 of the living move about Queenstown in a haze of disbelief. Among them is Captain Turner, miraculously washed clear of the bridge. He wanders the town, devastated and ashamed, as remnants of his magnificent ship wash ashore. The most elite of the Lusitania's passengers are not spared. Alfred Vanderbilt, Charles Frohman, Art collector Sir Hugh Lane. Writer Elbert Hubbard. In the days to follow, U.S. Consul Wesley Frost works around the clock, supervising the recovery of bodies. Of 134 children aboard, 94 are lost. The unidentified are laid to rest in mass graves. As Kapitan Schwieger nears port, radio operator Rikovsky notifies German command. The U-20 has fired only one torpedo and has sunk the great Lusitania. The crew of the U-20 return as heroes. In London, Schwieger's report is again intercepted by Room 40. The British fear the ship's cargo of ammunition may have cost 1,200 lives. The intercept is suppressed. Unaware, President Wilson tries to calm his furious nation.
There is such a thing as a man being too proud to fight. There is such a thing as a nation being so right that it does not need to convince others by force that it is right.
Wilson's pacifism is met with contempt. For many, the death of 123 Americans is an act of war. The public demands to know how and why this tragedy was allowed to happen. Five weeks after the Lusitania disaster, an inquiry is called.
All rise for Lord Mersey.
The investigation is led by Lord Mersey, an eminent Liverpool barrister. Mersey is unaware of the flurry of letters being written by the British Admiralty. A plan is hatched to make a scapegoat of Captain William Turner.
I feel absolutely certain Captain Turner of the Lusitania is a scoundrel.
It is considered politically expedient that Captain Turner be most prominently blamed for the disaster.
One critic leads the rest, Winston Churchill.
The Admiralty case against the captain should be pressed by a skillful counsel. We shall pursue the captain without check.
After 4 weeks of investigation, Captain Turner is found not guilty. There can be only one demon, the German captain, Walter Schwieger.
The whole blame for the cruel destruction of life in this catastrophe must rest solely with those who plotted and with those who carried out the crime.
But Mersey does do service to the Admiralty's cover-up.
2 torpedoes struck the ship simultaneously.
Schwieger's message, intercepted by Room 40, clearly states that only one torpedo was fired.
The Lusitania was struck somewhere between the 3rd and 4th funnels.
In fact, the torpedo struck much further forward, close to the ammunition. The Admiralty is desperate to conceal that the ship's cargo exploded. Exploration of the wreck proves their cover-up is needless. The ammunition played no role in the sinking. It did not explode. Computer analysis discloses the real cause for the ship's rapid sinking. The ship's design is examined, the conditions of the disaster reproduced. It is the Lusitania herself. She has been built for peacetime speed. Her designers never considered the perils of a U-boat's torpedo.
What we've been able to see is that the damage caused by the lone torpedo was enough to cause the flooding throughout the Lusitania that would lead to the progression of the Lusitania sinking. The exact location of where the torpedo hit was not critical to sinking Lusitania. More damaging was the operating condition that she was at, with the doors open so that flooding was able to progress from compartment to compartment. When she immediately lost power, the electric doors were unable to be closed, and this allowed large amounts of water to enter not only the number 1 boiler room, but spaces forward and after that. And as the ship went more and more nose down, the water that had flooded in is rushing to the bow of the ship anyway. If the flooding had been contained to the compartment that was damaged by the torpedo, the ship most likely would have survived. It would have taken on water and it would have healed, but it would not have been catastrophic. However, the compartment was open to other compartments, so no matter where the torpedo had hit in this area, it most likely would have exposed several compartments to flooding, causing the ship to heel over at excessive angles and taking on more and more flooding through the open portholes as well.
"11 miles from safety, the Lusitania crossed from one era to another. Her sinking marked the death of innocence and the beginning of total war. The man who destroyed her, Walter Schwieger, is killed in 1917. His U-boat sunk by the British Navy. Captain William Turner survives another torpedo attack while commanding a troop ship. 36 of his men are lost. Despite this grim record, Turner is promoted to Commodore of the line, but the Admiralty's indictment will haunt him for the rest of his life. Within a month of the Lusitania disaster, Winston Churchill steps down as First Lord of the Admiralty. Churchill never reveals his knowledge of Room 40's secrets. Secrets kept from America. Even President Wilson is not informed that British intelligence had broken the German codes and that the British knew Walter Schwieger's U-boat lay in the path of the Lusitania. If Churchill did intend to draw America into World War I, he underestimated American caution. 2 more years will pass. But when the United States joins the fight, it is the Lusitania her soldiers vow to avenge. A glorious ship, sacrificed. Her innocent passengers, pawns in a cruel new era.
There's something about the sea you can't escape. I don't think it's possible to reproduce the horror and of a scene like that.
I did for about, good 10, 12 years, wake up in the middle of the night in the most awful nightmare, feeling I was being sucked under and found myself standing on my bed.